everybody.
Hello,
I am Katie,
this is Caitlin.
and this is the Who Has Time for This podcast, a podcast where we delve into complex topics through the lens of our own unique perspectives. And we had a different podcast queued up to come up next, but we decided in the wake of everything that's happening right now that we would talk a little bit about the aftermath of the shooting of Charlie Kirk and kind of what that means for us as a country and us as people.
Yep. So, yes, we will share our thoughts as people who are not media or political pundits. We are just regular people, as most of the people processing this news are. I guess a good place to start would be with immediate reaction and go first. First of all, I had taken the second half of last week off. So I was took Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off to just do stuff around my house and get caught up on some non-work extracurricular projects, like my Substack. I'll link in the show notes. But this happened on last Wednesday, September 10th, and I'm one of those people. I get breaking news alerts on my phone at AP and New York Times. So constantly get news alerts. And it was what was it, 45 or whatever? Got a news alert that was Charlie Kirk shot at campus event in Utah. And I was like, what the heck? And I immediately opened my phone and went on Instagram. Big mistake, because it was the first thing I saw. Him getting shot in the neck with a gun. Yeah. Because
I can't believe the video just went everywhere.
Yeah, was unfiltered, immediately posted to social media, which is a whole other, it's part of this discussion, but a whole other issue that needs to be tackled. And then our friend Brad, who is also pretty tapped in, texted me immediately. He was like, I know that you probably already know what happened. I was like, yeah. And so I said, oh my gosh, this is bad. This is really bad.
Yeah.
And then I said, I saw the video. I don't think he's going to make it out of this. But I said, what would be crazy is if he did, and then he became a gun control advocate because he had a brush with death. 2 seconds later, I got the breaking news alert that he had died. And I just had this sick feeling wash over me. It felt like how not as despairing, but almost as just final as I felt after I heard about the Sandy Hook shooting. Even when I woke up the next morning after that, I knew the world had changed, kind of thing. And I just knew we were in this turning point.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. And then I was saying to Brad, I was like, I'm so worried about how Trump is going to deal with this.
To use it.
And I was right. So anyway, that was my long meandering story about how I learned about this. How did you interpret the initial?
My business partner texted me that he got shot when I got home at 7 p.m. after work.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, damn. I didn't know that he had died at that point.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I didn't have a huge reaction, honestly, until, I was seeing other people's reactions and reacting to them.
Yeah.
To me, what's, obviously, human life is always important. No one should die a gun death. We're going to talk about that. But I think the way that people were reacting was what worried me.
Yeah. And then, of course, that night, Trump had, he had an address, and he spoke about it, and he was, blamed half the country for it. And that's when I knew.
A podcaster's death is something that the president needs to make an address for.
Yeah.
And on 9/11 of all days.
Right. Yes. Yep. And it was the night before 9/11, as he was preparing to do 9/11 stuff the next day, and he ordered the flags at half-mast. It was all crazy. And there was another crazy thing that happened, which was during, right after he was shot, I guess everybody in the House of Representatives was the Republicans called to do a prayer. And
Yeah.
Everyone was like, fine, whatever. And it was just like a moment of silence prayer. And then apparently Lauren Boebert, who is the rep from Colorado, was like, silent prayers get silent results. And so she wanted to do like a real prayer. And I mean, sorry, not a silent prayers are real, but a spoken prayer. And
Oh, so like not
and then
actually anything of like any action. She just wanted to speak
no, well,
out so
this is
that
how
her
it
voice
works,
could be
right?
heard.
Thoughts
Yeah.
and prayers. But
She was just like, I need my voice to be heard the loudest.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Democrats were like, no, we're not going to, no, a moment of silence is enough. We didn't do a spoken prayer when the lawmakers in Minnesota were
Yeah.
shot. And then there was like a whole argument. Actually, I don't even know what the result was. When I heard a little bit about it, I was like, that's so true. And I agree. But then also at the same time, I was like, is this going to be even worse if we don't say a prayer for him? It's like disturbing that the flags are at half mast, though.
But I
Trump,
didn't see any in Connecticut at half mast
no.
with my own
Trump,
two eyes.
yeah. He was like good friends, or maybe not friends, because he's like 79 and Charlie Kirk was 31. But he like really liked him. So I do think they were close.
But then did you see
But,
that interview where he was asked about his
oh,
death?
yeah, and he was
And then
like the
Trump was just
ballroom.
talking about the ballroom?
Yeah, I do generally think he just doesn't possess that much humanity.
Yep, exactly.
For
Yeah, none of
for
it means anything
that,
to him.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. Everything is crazy. All these people came out of the woodwork on Facebook and were like, "What a tragedy! This wonderful young man." And I was like, "What?" And I saw so many. I'm not political, but this is
Ugh,
terrible. Blah
yeah.
blah 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 blah. Okay, so
Like
that's where
what's
I
weird to
was.
me about like people who haven't heard about him, like this being kind of the first thing, and then they're getting all these like, oh, like I don't know, look at this video where he talked with a black person. He didn't even say the N word. Like, but
He looked at a black person and he didn't burst into flames. Oh my god.
and people who
God,
like see
please don't
themselves
sue
as
me or
like
deport me. Sorry.
people who see themselves as more like center or like moderately liberal might not have heard of him or spent much time
Right.
with looking at him, but they might encounter something like the New York Times article by Ezra Klein.
Oh my god.
He's like
Ezra, I
really
was not happy when I saw that.
and he said things like how Charlie Kirk was doing politics right, and it's just such a bad,
Yeah,
which
that was
like
a
we will
bad
get
take.
into why throughout this episode, but
That was a really bad take from Ezra. I think sometimes that Ezra, I don't want to put words in his mouth, especially because I don't actually know him.
okay.
I think sometimes Ezra thinks he's like doing the right thing or the brave thing, and it's like, let me be the one to take all the heat and like say this so that we can like build a bridge or whatever. This was not the take. He could have said
Oh.
something to that effect, but also been like, but he didn't do it. Like he was good to go out and talk to people, sure, when we're all like otherwise sitting on our computers and being behind screens, fine. But he didn't actually debate with anybody, which we'll talk about. Like, I just want to say that, like, literally 2 days before, Ezra had a piece about how the Democrats should, or not that they should shut down the government, but that they should like hold the line this time. Like last time there was the budget. This is unrelated to Charlie Kirk, but last
Mm-hmm.
time the budget stuff happened in March, and then they were like ended up voting for it, and everybody was mad. He's saying don't do that this time because it's totally different. It's like in the last 6 months, everything's changed, and like if the government is funded without a fight, then we're like absolutely 100% like enabling Trump to just demolish democracy at this
Yeah.
point. So he was saying like don't cave. Last time there was some
Mm-hmm.
wiggle room. There's no wiggle room now. So he shared that, and everybody and like all the people I follow were like, yeah, Ezra, yeah. And then like 2 days later, he was like,
He
Charlie
caved.
Kirk was a great
Yeah.
politician or
Also,
whatever, doing
so
politics right.
I just watched Matt Bernstein dropped a podcast today, and he talks a lot about the article, and he had a good take that was like just like how Charlie Kirk has kind of just by his like class and what he looks like and his life, he is protected from most of these things that he espouses as like
Right.
all these things that he's like rooting for, like gun rights and systemic racism
Yeah.
and like, trans people don't exist. Like none of those things touch him. I mean, except until last week.
Right.
But it's a similar thing for Ezra Klein.
Yeah.
None of those
Right.
things touch him personally.
Yeah. He
So he has less
doesn't.
of a stake in all of this.
Totally. Totally. Everyone who was like the day before, like, oh, what a great thing, what a great idea about the shutdown, was like, what the heck, Ezra? So, but back to what we were saying about people who like didn't know Charlie Kirk or like, just found out about him. I do think that, well, obviously it all depends on where you get your news and your culture and everything. If you're getting a lot of it from Fox News, I wouldn't know because I don't watch it. He was probably interviewed all the time and probably just said like pretty semi-normal stuff for him, like, I love my wife and blah blah blah. And because he was his most unfiltered self on his podcast and in some campus events, but mostly it was his podcast where he said the most terrible things that he said. And I think that older people, who are a lot of the people I'm seeing on Facebook, who seem just like completely confused and like not able to compute, I feel like they probably only saw him in like random TV appearances where he looked like a wonderful Christian young man. And then you're like, but that's, yeah, but like, and then
sneaking those digs about like Michelle Obama only got where she was because she took the spot of a white person who should have actually gotten in.
Exactly. And I'm sure he said those kind of things on like mainstream media appearances too, but the audience agrees already, so they didn't think to question it. So many of my like older Facebook family members and acquaintances, there's like battles happening in their comments because they're like, oh my god, what happened to this young man? And then they're like, but I've never seen him say anything like that. And I'm like, have you watched like all thousands of hours of his podcast? And then they probably like Google it to like try to understand, and then they're served some article that's like, all of Charlie Kirk's, like, everything people think is racist is taken out of context. Because then I don't want to say specific people, but I saw these people on Facebook being like, you're taking that out of context. And it's like, so did you never hear him say that, or am I taking him out of context? What's the story?
Yeah. Some of the things he said, like, what context could make it better?
Yeah, what context would make it better? And like the gun rights thing where he was like, the gun deaths are like
a price he's willing to pay for gun rights.
Yeah, because he's like, you can't have no gun deaths if you're gonna have rights to own a gun. And then he like, I've seen people arguing like, well, you're making it sound like he doesn't care, but if you listen longer, he's saying that that's the price to pay to have the right to bear arms, to like be able to take up weapons against a tyrannical government or whatever. And I was like, okay, so where are we now with the tyrannical government thing? Like, is like the roving masked ICE people, is that tyrannical? Should we perhaps be taking up arms against them? Like, when does this start to play out? Because you better be happy that they're mostly in states with like gun control. Because what if someone took it to be like, this is a tyrannical government? Should I like respond in kind?
Like sending an armed National Guard to cities that didn't want it?
Right, exactly. So yeah, that can go both ways, that argument. So I did quickly, Sharon McMahon, one of my favorite newsfluencer people, did a post on Instagram where she's like, I see a lot of people being confused about statements that have upset other people that Charlie Kirk made. And so she put up a post where she's like, Charlie Kirk in his own words And she said, this is quote unquote what she said: "If you don't consume much partisan media, you might not realize how big of a reach Charlie Kirk had and what an influence he was on millions. He co-founded Turning Point USA in 2012, which we'll talk about in a second. By 2024, has 850 plus chapters, nearly $100 million raised. His daily podcast had 1 million viewers, which I'm thinking means
It was daily?
each day, yeah, I guess each day had 1 million viewers, and then clips of his talks that are out on social media had billions of views.
Mm-hmm.
So like he is a juggernaut, a political juggernaut who favors or is representative of conservative views. So with influence that large, she says, his words shape the national conversation. But if you were a Charlie Kirk fan, you might not realize why there's so much backlash to posts eulogizing his death. I've seen many comments this week that said things to the effect of, Charlie was kind to everyone. All he did was preach the gospel and love people.
Whoa.
All he did was engage in free speech, which is what we saw one of our mutual friends very confusedly posting on Facebook. To many Americans, especially if you are Black, LGBTQ, or Muslim, Charlie Kirk was not a person who simply engaged in good faith debates on college campuses. Here are some of his direct quotes, which I took the time, this is Sharon talking, I took the time to watch or read in full so as to understand them in their full context. If I'm dealing with somebody, this is Charlie's quote right now.
Okay.
If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic Black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? And Sharon says, this line didn't just target one person in customer service. It echoed a broader stereotype that Black women lack the intelligence or qualification to succeed without outside help. And then there's a more famous one that he said that Michelle Obama and Ketanji Brown Jackson, etc., don't have the same brain processing power as a white woman. That's why they shouldn't have been able to go to Harvard, or paraphrasing. He said about gay people, they are not happy just having marriage. Instead, they now want to corrupt your children. Sharon says, this insinuates that LGBTQ people are not seeking equal rights, but that instead they are predators. Then he said he had the Great Replacement Strategy, which is well underway every single day in our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different. Which Sharon says, this echoed the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, the belief that immigration is a plot to erase white Americans. Versions of this idea have fueled white supremacist violence, including mass shootings. Here, and I'll pick one. Oh, I don't have to pick one more. Here's the last one. She had the other ones that are talked about a lot, but I was trying to find some extra.
New ones,
yeah. He said, quote, the American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white, end quote. And then Sharon says,
quote just made me so tired.
yeah. Sharon says, this is more than a partisan jab. It insinuates that diversity equals decline. And she says, these are just a handful of examples. And to many, when they see people treating Charlie Kirk like a martyr, it seems like they are also endorsing these ideas. The controversy isn't about being politically incorrect, having a difference of opinion, or preaching the gospel. It's about repeating bigoted ideas on a stage that reached tens of millions. And that's my bottom line here. And then she said, it's important to remember that the incredible tragedy of political assassination does not erase the harm many experienced from his words and the ensuing actions his followers took. Okay, so that kind of just lays the groundwork for what we're dealing with here. Another post I read by Helen Peterson, who is like a culture writer. Her post was called "The Reaction is Asymmetrical," which I thought was like such a great way to articulate it. It's like I couldn't quite ever put my finger on it. And it's not even just a reaction to Charlie Kirk. It's just like everything. Like, why do the Democrats always seem like they're bringing a plastic spoon to a knife fight? Like, it's asymmetrical. So what she said was, not because Kirk's life had more inherent meaning or just that his death was any more unconscionable than anybody else's death, or like the Minnesota lawmaker's death. And the person she was talking to said, it's just not the same. The parties are asymmetrical. The reaction will be too. We're living through a period of profound political polarization, and it's crucial. Yep, yes, profound political polarization, and it's crucial to understand that the polarization and the power wielded by each party is asymmetrical. The presidential popular vote was split nearly down the middle. Trump barely won.
Yeah.
And the control of the legislative bodies keeps going back and forth over the past decade. But the way the right wields power is much more powerful. They flaunt norms, they grab more power, they use more power. They refused to confirm Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court back when Obama was president. And that was a big brouhaha then, but nobody did anything about it.
Nope.
Now there's 6 of the justices are conservative on the Supreme Court. Elected Republicans are much more further to the right than their counterparts are to the left. Some of the power has to do with dynamics of MAGAism, which demands perfect fealty to Trump, but some of it too is facilitated by the Democrats' persistence that we still live in a time of balance, basically. The belief, for instance, that all legislative action should be achieved through bipartisanship, or that it's in bad taste to speak ill of colleagues on the other side of the aisle.
And it's Chuck Schumer is still
mm-hmm.
What's his role?
He's gotta
he's
go.
The speaker, right?
He's just got he's.
But so.
But Ezra's obsessed.
I couldn't think of his role name.
Yes. Yeah.
He is essentially running for Republicans.
Yeah.
The labor rights movement was sort of dying down. He abandoned places like West Virginia that were overly democratic when the labor rights movement was really up and coming and getting all their rights. Yeah. And when they needed him, he abandoned him and said things like, for every one rural voter we lose, we're going to get 2 or 3 moderate, central, suburban voters. So he abandoned the lower class to the Republicans to get these central people.
Yep.
Now are Republicans. Anyway.
Yep. Democrats, she says, are obsessed with this respectability, but they also think that behaving in the same way they wish Republicans would behave will somehow just make them stop breaking the rules. And then she talked about how MAGA is like a blob, just this giant blob rolling down a hill, and it just keeps absorbing everything in its tracks.
Yeah.
And getting larger and larger. And then she said that the legacy media and the establishment left, establishment liberals, are terrified of the blob, but the right doesn't care.
Yeah.
As in any institutions or media that lean conservative, they don't care that the blob is coming. They're like, come get us. Don't worry about it. So, and then the blob equals dissent of criticism, which is very important for budding authoritarians like our president. So just we talked about how much influence Turning Point USA had before and how much influence Charlie Kirk had through that.
Yeah.
And then Trump's unhinged response, blaming the radical left, so making it okay to think that retribution is necessary against half the country, more than half the country. So I just feel like this is a watershed moment for us. We will look back on this moment, and I don't know how we'll respond. We'll see when we look back on it. But
and that's sort of it's bigger than the person. We're gonna get more into this, but most of, not most, but a lot of, I guess most of the notable people's reactions have been about his humanity. He's a father, and his kids, and this and that. And they're kind of ignoring the legacy. But that really made me think of this post I saw. Where are you? It was on Tumblr. I've already told you guys I use Tumblr. It's fine. This person said, and actually it's a screenshot of a tweet, so it was on Twitter. But it says, my grandfather used to say, and Magda Goebbels made a great strudel. And that's She's the wife of the Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. The tweet says, and I never knew what it meant until after he died. My grandmother explained that some magazine did a fluff interview with Magda Goebbels a few years before World War II that included her strudel recipe. And my grandfather, who hated the Nazis with the passion of 10,000 suns, thought it was an example of the media sanitizing evil people, and he would use the phrase when someone asked him to overlook a bad person doing bad things and focus on the good.
Right, totally. Yeah, Turning Point USA, big organization, positions conservative values to the youths and like trying to turn the youth Republican, like incoming generations of voters, basically. Charlie himself wasn't always super Christian. He was always like conservative generally, but he wasn't like really Christian. And the only reason I even bring this up is because there are some clips floating around that's like Charlie Kirk destroys anti-gay extremists at campus. And this was one that I saw that somebody, I'll call him DK, shared with me on Facebook in a series of comments we had back and forth to like prove that Charlie Kirk was not, just in his mind, show Charlie Kirk was like supportive of gay people. And I did watch the clip and I was like, okay, weird. But
How old
I
is
was
it?
like, well, maybe Peter Thiel, who is like, the gay billionaire that backs like everything Trump related. I was like, maybe he's trying to like appeal to him. But I looked deeper after I learned that he wasn't always super Christian and like preaching that God is against gayness.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that the clip where he destroyed this other guy was from like 2018 or something, which is when he was kind of just getting started and before he became uber Christian. So in that context, it makes sense. Yeah. So like, good for him that he did that one time, but like 12 years later, it's a little different. And I'm more interested in what he's telling people now, or what he
And
was
he has
telling
said
people.
that like his wife is much more conservative than he is.
Yes. So I
I'm
think
assuming
like,
that could have been an influence.
and she's older than him. She's like 5 years older than him, so she's more established. Yeah, I learned all this stuff this week, and so I do think that I think he kind of like pivoted a little bit when they got married, but also the people funding Turning Point, I
Well, that's
think.
what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. It was Foster Friess, who's a
Yep.
conservative Christian billionaire.
Yep.
He gave
Exactly.
the funds to start it up.
Exactly.
Also, notably on their board is Ginny Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife, and Barry Russell, who is the CEO of an oil and gas lobbying group. So it's never been the centered,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
well imbalanced debate channel it's claimed to be. It's always
Exactly.
conservative Christian values.
Yep. And as we approached the 2024 presidential election, he had become one of Trump's most high profile campaigners with the youths, which is why we saw such a huge swing towards Trump, especially with young men. We did see like everything moved right. Everything moved right. But the biggest swings were like with populations we did not expect, including young people. And anyway,
And
he
also, like,
repeated.
communities that generally run more like Christian, like a
Yes.
lot of times, like, you know.
Mm-hmm. At campaign rallies and whatever other events he did, he repeatedly cast the contest in stark spiritual terms, claiming Democrats, quote, stand for everything God hates, unquote, and describing the election as a spiritual battle. So I never saw any of this because I was not watching clips from Trump campaign rallies. I was watching clips from Harris campaign rallies. But that's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah.
And also, let's talk
Saying it's a
just for one.
spiritual battle to a room full of conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, and like young men who
Yeah.
are spending their time gaming and stuff, like
We've been ready for battle.
they're ready for battle.
They have that katana. They've been waiting to use it.
Exactly. And also, let's talk about like, you're talking about Donald Trump. Is he really the spiritual
Right?
icon of our times?
God, like the closest he's ever
Does
been to it
anyone?
was that one photo shoot he did standing outside of the church, remember?
I just wonder. I'm like, does anyone else see this?
Yeah, right?
It's
It's crazy.
absurd.
It's
Okay.
propaganda is so powerful. And we are
Yeah.
not like I'm just as susceptible as any MAGA person. Like our little puny human brains can always fall for propaganda.
Hey, I was saying that Joe Biden was fine for a long time, so I'm just as susceptible as anyone.
Mhm.
I admit now that I turned a blind eye because I so did not want Trump to be elected that I
Yeah.
was like, I will vote for Biden's head in a jar. I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd vote for Pizza Rat.
And yeah, and you know what? The Democratic Party, the establishment Democratic Party, took advantage of that
Yeah.
when, and they should have muscled him out a lot sooner.
Mm.
They just should have not let him run again at all. Anyway,
Yeah.
Kamala is about to publish her tell-all book, so you can read about it.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yes, so he's starting to like paint everything in these like crazy spiritual stark terms, and that's where I
Mhm.
want to talk about Christian nationalism taking root,
Yeah.
gripping the conservative movement, and white Christian nationalism specifically, which
Mhm.
is just let me just uh, pull up a definition here. Christian nationalism. This is from, sorry, a website called Christians Against Christian Nationalism. So I guess take it with a grain of salt. But when I was Googling what is Christian nationalism, there's no just like Christian nationalist website that says like this is what we are and this is what we
Yeah.
stand for. It's all people against Christian nationalism. So
Yeah.
Christian nationalism seeks to merge Christian and American identities, distorting both the Christian faith and America's constitutional democracy. It demands that Christianity be privileged by the state and implies that to be a good American, one must be Christian. It often overlaps with and provides cover for white supremacy and racial subjugation. And they say we reject this damaging ideology.
Okay.
So that I mean, and the people who like authored Project 2025, which is obviously what is being implemented right now,
Mhm.
are many of them are Christian nationalists, or
Yeah,
they
like
are,
Stephen Miller and shit.
getting to be
Mhm.
that point. And then again, I just want to be like, does anybody see what's going on here? Because wasn't this whole country founded on a separation of church and state because the people who founded it were fleeing religious persecution in
It
another country?
always repeats itself. Mhm.
Charlie, back to Charlie, is a big reason
Mhm.
that Trump got elected because, like, literally nobody was expecting this, like, mass movement to conservatism by young men
Mhm.
specifically and young women. Young women came out for Trump, not as much as
White
for
women.
years, but more, yes, but more so than in the past.
You can't blame black women. They
And
came out in droves for Kamala.
yep. And Kirk, in a profile with The Atlantic, or in an interview or something, I don't know. I think this was an interview that never became a story, but then the writer wrote about it in retrospect last week after Charlie died. But he had like talked to him about the election, and Charlie was like, I didn't want to win just an election, I want to win a generation. So, yeah. So, talking about that generation, one of his big things was to like go out onto college
Yeah.
campuses and debate school children basically and college students.
Yeah.
And he had this thing called the Prove Me Wrong, where he'd be on a stage and have a debate with students. And there's a lot of debate about whether that was actually debate or if, or as Ezra says, practicing politics the right way, or was he just like dunking on college kids in like an aggressive manner to make content for social media?
Yeah. Like, he was always set up to be the winner of all those quote unquote debates. Like, he gets to choose which clips he includes in the video and gets to edit them. He gets
Yep.
to choose the title of the video. He gets to choose the thumbnail. Also, like, he gets to prepare and research his arguments, whereas the college kids don't know what the topic's going to be of this said quote unquote debate. And, like, they're kids, they don't have years of experience of public debating in front of large crowds like he does. That's
Right.
intimidating. Like, just all like no one else ever has a chance to win these things, so it's not a debate.
Exactly. I want to read a thread post I saw by somebody I follow called Elder Millennial Mom. And she's obviously on the left, so disclaimer. And she said, unpopular opinion, a 31-year-old man dunking on 18-year-old kids who dare to think differently than him isn't promoting free speech. Then she says, at best, it's stifling the liberty of free thought, and at worst, it's cheap self-aggrandizing. And then she said, at the end of the day, take a deep breath and use it to ask for the release of the full unredacted Epstein files. And then some people were like, well, isn't that what college professors do every day? They just like talk at students and blah, blah, blah. And
Have you
she
been to
was like, they're
college?
not, right. No, I remember having a back and forth with having actual conversations with my professors. But she was like, college professors aren't doing it for content. So it's different.
Yeah.
They're just like, that's just their job. Everyone who's been like saying that Charlie Kirk was like so great to go out and talk to college students and all that, they did a survey recently that asked college students if they had heard of Charlie Kirk and if they supported his views. Because, by the way, people have been talking about him the past couple of days. You'd think he like made every single college student in America conservative.
Yeah.
But basically, it was like 90% of the students who were surveyed said yes, they'd heard of him, and 30% supported his views. So he wasn't popular, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's the
I mean, with
point.
the amount of people that he's fighting in the videos, they're never agreeing with him.
Right, exactly. I saw a really great one where a black woman and him were talking about Derek Chauvin, the cop who killed George Floyd, he was arguing that he should be pardoned. And the woman was like, why? And then she was like, he kneeled on him until he died. And then Charlie was like, well, no. He died from a drug overdose.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, that was his thing. The first medical examiner said drug overdose or something was the cause of death. But then that got overturned and it was strangulation or asphyxiation or whatever from the knee. And that's what was like used in court to get the cop convicted. Anyway, Charlie's argument was like, well, we should go with the original thing, a cause of death being the drug overdose. But I guess like they talked all the science and the medical background of it in court, and it was like the timing of like when like drugs would have like metabolized and when he died, it doesn't make sense. It was definitely the asphyxiation brought on by the knee. And he also had like heart problems, but I don't know, they disproved all that, so it doesn't matter. But
yeah, he kneeled on his neck for 9 minutes.
Yeah, right. And he was like not just like limp on the ground in a drug overdose, he was like calling out for his mother.
Yeah.
Anywho, the woman was like, or Charlie Kirk was like, that's like a thing that cops are taught to do when somebody's resisting arrest. It's like a normal like subdual method. And then
One of the many reasons why we need to reform the police system.
Right. And then the woman is like, okay, but like, when do you end it? Like, when do you end the kneeling on the neck? And he was like, when the subject is subdued. And she was like, yeah, but when does it end? And he was like, when he stops resisting arrest. And then she was like, so when he dies? And I don't know. It was the best line of questioning I've ever seen. And that was just how the debate ended, or that was how the clip ended. And I was like, right. When does it end? When he dies? Okay, so let's get back to the Trump response of it all.
Okay.
And we talked a little bit earlier about how Trump was just abdicating his responsibility as a president to, try to find unity and project leadership during this time. And instead he went, right for the most divisive thing that he could do. And then JD Vance doubled down on that he was like he hosted Charlie Kirk's podcast, and he's just said even like worse stuff than Trump said. And just I haven't been paying like too much attention to it because it's just so much.
But like, so glad that our vice president's really doing his job.
Yeah,
filling in on
exactly.
podcasts.
And he just basically doubled down on what Trump said, and he's like not backing down, which is just very dark and also just like completely irresponsible. Like, just you people are just being irresponsible at this point. And
They've been irresponsible from the beginning.
yeah, and now as we're seeing with like the Jimmy Kimmel of it all, but now the right is going through its own purging with purity politics, just like the left did, and the cancel culture is coming back. And you know
The
what?
culture that the right really
Let them do it. Let
on.
them do it. Let's see how it ends for them. Because you know what? The exhausted majority of Americans that aren't tapped in but are getting like the drips and drabs that are the most like crazy and extreme, they're gonna be like, what the heck is happening? And they're not gonna like what they're seeing. So
Yeah, it's kind of time to clue in people.
yep. And then I did just, in the pursuit of being responsible and transparent in the midst of all the Charlie Kirk martyrdom, everything that we're seeing on Facebook, I'm seeing my friends, acquaintances, etc., posting what I think are like the dumbest things, and they make me so mad when I see them. It's like a meme that's just like text on like a background color, and it's like, if you did this, then that.
Oh yeah,
It's always like that's the formula of the sentence.
like all these
And
false equivalencies, sort
yes,
of.
yes. And it's like, if you are sad Charlie Kirk died, then you're a Nazi. Like,
Yeah,
that's not exactly it,
but
but
like things with no nuance.
no nuance. And like, do you really think that people seeing that on their feed are going to be like, oh yeah, I guess I am a Nazi? Like, what do you think? What do you think they're gonna do? Those are just like the kinds of like reductive, stupid things that I hate. And this is all very social media specific. I know in real life people aren't going around telling people these
I
things
mean,
to their
they
face.
probably are like to their
But
friends,
they might, yeah, you're
not
right.
to the person who's like sad.
Yeah, right. And obviously know your audience. Some people are very upset about Charlie Kirk because of certain beliefs they had that are not good.
My business partner showed me something that I forget who it was. It was either like a high school friend or like a cousin or somebody posted on Facebook, I believe. It was like a photo split down the middle. Half the face was Martin Luther King Jr. and half the face was Charlie Kirk.
Oh my gosh, Charlie Kirk
Like,
said
are
that
you
Martin Luther
for
King.
real?
So, I mean, there's another example. So, like, I know obviously Juneteenth brings up a lot of stupid thoughts by people who don't know better, but there are literal people who just don't know what it is because it only
Because
recently
they
became
might be in a state where critical
yeah,
race theory has been deemed illegal in their school.
exactly.
No
And
idea.
like it was declared a federal holiday in 2021, but it wasn't actually observed until 2022. And then it's like, if your place of business doesn't do every federal holiday and you like didn't have it off, then you just probably didn't like think about it. But I think more people are getting it off now, which is not, I'm not saying like, oh great, another day off, but I'm just saying that I feel like this year I saw more people being like, what's Juneteenth, than I ever saw. And Sharon Says So, wrote a Substack that was like, if you don't know about Juneteenth, it's okay, but here's what it's about. So now you can't say you don't know about it anymore. And the reason I use Juneteenth as an example is because during that time I saw many if this then that memes floating around, and they were all like, if you don't know about Juneteenth, then you're racist. And it's like, no, that's not helpful either.
Yeah.
Can we just try to talk to each other at all? And then that is what
And not like Charlie
contributed.
Kirk style debates, but actually
Yes.
talk.
No, just be like, well, Juneteenth is actually really important because
Hmm.
it's when the last remaining slaves were told that they had been emancipated, and it's like a big deal
Yeah.
in the African American community. And now it's a federal holiday, so we can all reflect upon it, and it's all been brought to our conscious now, and it's okay if you didn't know about it before, but now you do, so let's move on. And yeah, I guess my point with all this revisiting, and like we talked about this in the Harry Potter and the Problematic Favorites episode, we know how things get catapulted in social media.
Yeah.
To a point where there's like a point of no return when you reach like the fever pitch. That's exactly the phrase I used in that episode. Where we're all just like mad and yelling at each other and just accusing, like, if you didn't know this, then you're stupid. If you didn't know that, then you're a bigot, blah, blah, blah. And I think the point I'm trying to make here is that if we all, unless shown otherwise, just give each other the benefit of the doubt until the doubt has been confirmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's in someone's heart. You don't know how their viewpoint came to be until you talk to them about it. And I just, knowing that this is going to be a rough road ahead, given how leadership has reacted with the blame game, I just really want to get out ahead of it by getting the people that I know to be reasonable to not go for the throat, basically, with like stupid memes and reductive arguing on social media. Like, don't give Trump more ammo
The
if
only
you
way
don't have to.
the only way we're gonna dig out of this is to kind of bring more people into the fold.
Big tent, big tent. And that's not to say, so then there's arguments, like this has all been swirling in my head for a long time, because big tent doesn't have to mean
You let a Nazi
doing middle of the road all the time. It doesn't have to mean big tent policies. It could mean progressive policies, but how do you talk about the progressive policies so that middle of the road people are on board? That's all I'm talking about. I think there's just like there's a certain level of marketing you have to do and like audience segmentation when you're talking about elections. Like, I think when progressives and leftist people hear other Democrats say big tent, they think, no, we don't want big tent because that means we don't get anything done. That's moderating. That's yielding to the center. No, I mean, for some people that might be what it means, but no, I mean big tent, like just communicating better to more people and not having to give up your good policies that we should really try, because we've been trying the centrist and conservative policies for a while and they're not working. Did that make any sense? I don't know.
That did make sense.
Okay.
But I also want to add, like, these polarizing statements, they haven't come out of nowhere kind of thing. Like, all of the response to this brought me right back to October 7th, 2023, after the Hamas attacks. And if you said anything, like, about Palestinian children dying, or referencing, like, the long history of the oppression of Palestinians under Israel, you were labeled as an anti-Semite. And I think this caused like a huge counter reaction. Like dispelled any nuance that there could have been about this situation, you know? And that's what I see happening.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
You can only talk about his death being like sad and that he had kids and a wife and gun violence shouldn't happen. And if you say anything about his rhetoric that he advocated for an environment where there were some gun deaths, like, and his rhetoric that like bred kind of these reactions, like they're not created in a vacuum. And I like agree, like every person should be treated as a person. We should be talking to each other, hearing each other out, finding nuance, finding ways to connect. But I also see how like these pileups and these polarizing, comments and rhetoric, I see how they can come up. Like it's difficult to navigate, and like people are tired. I'm tired actually of always giving grace to the other side and never receiving any grace. Doesn't make it right, but I can see where it comes from,
Yeah.
And I still like think I agree, like we need to have that big tent, we need to listen to each other. But I also think like Yeah, we got to understand where everyone, understand where the leftists are coming from too, even if they're
Yeah.
doing that big reactionary thing
Mm-hmm.
because of this.
Yeah.
But also, so some people who, again, always having to give grace and never getting it,
Yeah.
not being able to say anything about the history and how this Charlie Kirk thing isn't in a vacuum. Like Karen Attiah was a Washington Post opinion columnist,
Yep.
and she put out tweets that pointed out that the hypocrisy and short-sightedness of saying political violence has no place in the U.S., where we see it every day, and she got fired from her job. And just what was it, yesterday or the day before? Jimmy Kimmel got fired, and he didn't neither of them celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. Jimmy Kimmel made a joke that the MAGA crowd was hoping that the shooter wasn't one of them. In
Yep.
essence, that's what his joke was about, and that got
Yep.
him fired because of pressure, because of capitalism. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
but that whole I texted you when I was feeling mad. I was so mad that Stephen Colbert and Bernie Sanders and stuff are just putting out. And you know what? They're
Yeah.
right.
And and you know what? I'm sure they don't want to say that. I think they saw themselves as being like, we got to be the adults in the room, I guess.
Yeah, but so both of them were doing this is not who we are. Political violence has no place in this country. And but the thing is, number one is that it is who we are.
Apparently.
Bear with me on this. Don't worry. I'm not just gonna be a spiral. Charlie Kirk and his ilk are fostering an environment where this is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
He's called for public executions. We talked about how he's pronounced that gun deaths are an acceptable price to pay for gun rights. On the same day that he was shot, there was a school shooting in Colorado. And like we brought up before, in June, a Minnesota state rep, Melissa Hortman, and her husband were both shot fatally.
And their dog, I think.
Their dog, too.
I think
But
so.
I don't want this to be who we are, but it is. And I think we need to acknowledge the truth that this is who we are, and work to change it and make ourselves into something else.
Yes,
Because it is.
absolutely.
That's my thought. The other angry rant I'm going to go on right now is talking about political violence. Because this term seems to have a meaning. It seems to have a different meaning for the people in power than it does for everyone else. Apparently, it is political violence when a podcaster is killed. A podcaster who's supposedly not a politician, but he has the vice president filling in for him after his death, and was at all of the Trump rallies and helped to get him elected. But is it not political violence when millions of people are kicked off their Medicaid or their food assistance programs? Is it not political violence to allow Elon Musk, who was not elected to office, to cut USAID? And it's estimated that that's going to kill 14 million people. Is it taking U.S. citizens off the street to deport them because they look vaguely Hispanic? Is that not political violence? The Secretary of Health and Human Services is limiting access to vital vaccines. Is that not political violence? We're sending weapons to a country confirmed to be engaging in genocide. Is that not political violence? What about sending armed National Guard troops to cities that did not ask for them? Political violence to the ruling class applies to somebody who looks like them or is in their class. Somebody like that is targeted. It's not political violence to them when the person is poor, sick, a person of color, or in any other way different from them. And that's my rant on political violence.
That's a really good point. Using politics to wield violence, is that not political violence also?
People are dying.
Solid argument.
You're not pulling the trigger doesn't mean it's not violent.
I also think that generally this has happened over the years, especially since Trump came on the scene and social media became more where we got our news from, that people are putting too much stock into their politics determining whether they're good people or not, when really it should be our actions that show that we're good people, how we treat everybody else, and not well, I'm for gun control, therefore I am good, and you are not, therefore you are evil.
Mm-hmm.
That is how the discourse has become, and I think it also speaks to why presidential elections have become so make or break. It's really hard to disentangle it from Trump making it make or break, and us feeling our politics are so high stakes, because politics itself should be boring. We should not be so invested in it. We should be invested in making sure the people we vote for listen to us. But other than that, it's been like gamified, and I think it's just like this tipping point of all these things coming together. There's the celebrity president, Trump, right? Turning politics into a game show, basically. And then there's social media, like accelerating the discourse, making it immediate, and the reactions are immediate, and we're talking to each other immediately, and all the heated everything that makes you get enraged is.
Like, you hear about Charlie Kirk getting shot, you go on
And you
Twitter.
open Instagram and he's getting shot right in front of you. Yeah. And like we've like used politics to like channel our morality, and it's just like not how it's supposed to be. So that's like another thing that people need to recognize, because we are not going to survive as a country if we put our politics first all the time. And that's why so many like crazy right people on the right are like, our two ideologies cannot exist, blah, blah, blah. Like I think I saw Matt Walsh posted that, and it's like, yeah, but that's the point. That is why this country was founded. It was founded so that ideologies that did not agree could coexist. That's the whole point of the country. That so that no, we got to somehow figure out how to move past that, because we
Yeah.
can't, unless that all the red people are going to take like the East Coast, and we're all going to decide that all the left people are going to take the West Coast. Like, we don't have any way to go. We cannot physically separate.
Well, I'm gonna give a different thought.
I'd love to hear it.
I feel that like Trump fans, have been upsettingly fooled into believing his lies.
Yeah.
But those lies are that some humans are less deserving of rights. And
Right.
I understand the rage and the polarization. Like, I am full of rage.
Yep.
Um, and like that's where we are now. Like, and we can't deny it. So if a political difference is to strip the human rights from trans people and pretend they don't exist while they're murdered and they commit suicide in higher numbers than any other group, I can't get behind that. Like, rich people disagree with poor people about social safety nets and taxes. That's not just a political disagreement, that's stealing from the poor.
Mm-hmm.
White people debating that systemic racism isn't real. To me, like, that's okay, that's political differences, but that's also oppression.
Mm-hmm.
When a more moderate person like sees all this just as political differences, that's, I think, most of the time that's because these issues don't personally touch them, or at least like they haven't yet. Like, women, we've never had the right to be political without the threat of violence.
Mm-hmm.
Neither has most other marginalized groups. Like, as a woman, my mere existence is political. My body is political. My autonomy is political. I didn't choose that. The people in power did. So
Right.
I have no choice, what I see, but to be political. And here's again, like, bear with me. It's going to sound like I'm dunking on people, but it's a call to action. I would argue that not being into politics is a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
It's a luxury that was afforded to like the boomer generation and beyond. So, like, Gen X, some millennials, because their parents and their grandparents paid close attention to politics. Like, would the labor movement have happened if people weren't political? Would we have
Right.
8-hour work days, a 40-hour work week? If more boomers were political in the 80s, would we have escaped Reagan and the economic policies that have been eroding the American middle class since his presidency? I'd make the argument that the only people who can afford to not be political are the ones who are literally wealthy enough to avoid like the heinous consequences of that
Mm-hmm.
avoidance. I feel like I'm not being as nice as Caitlin today, but I'm not trying to shame anybody who feels like they're not political. I honestly, like, I hope this is kind of seen as a call to action, like, to start paying closer attention, because this
Mm-hmm.
will touch you. Yes, you, the listener, whoever you are. Like, so I say now is the time to start paying attention. That's
Oh yeah.
my other take.
No, I agree. And I was realizing that maybe I'm not like presenting my full case well. But I guess what I mean is the Matt Walsh is saying the two ideologies can't exist or whatever, and I'm saying yes they can, and we need to work that out. I don't mean that at the expense of like the fundamental rights that I believe
I didn't
in.
think you did,
Yeah,
but
no, and I know you don't. I'm just saying, like, I want to make sure I'm clear.
yeah.
Think that the only way to secure those fundamental rights is by winning elections. To win elections, you need votes. To get
What about
votes,
how 60% of the country didn't vote?
right?
Start
Exactly.
paying attention
So
because you're not voting is going to affect you.
yeah, exactly. So because I align with what we have right now, the two parties, I align with the Democrats, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
even though this is a quote I've seen in my neighborhood Facebook groups about the current town budget process.
Uh-huh.
But this lady was like, they made a dog's breakfast of this budget process. And I was like, that's the
What?
greatest thing. I don't know. I don't know what it means, but it's bad.
I love
And
that.
so the Democrats made a dog's breakfast of the past
Yeah.
election cycle.
Left the
Like,
working class behind.
yes. And
Working class abandoned
honestly,
them.
the more I'm learning about it, and this is why I want to publish my glossary, because I think a lot more people are just like too confused by all the different labels that they
Yeah.
just don't even like they just don't even know where to start. But I'm realizing, you brought this up on the Stranger Things episode, I'm realizing more and more that since Reagan was elected, that the Democrats, even Obama, were like Republican light.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
and and that is like liberalism, yes,
Yeah,
being much more
exactly.
central. And
Chuck Schumer catering toward
yes,
Republican light.
yeah,
Yeah. He's not
exactly.
catering toward the people who voted for him.
Now, do I think Obama thought he could go against that when he was elected? Yes, I do. I do think he was sincere with his call for hope, but then he got in and they didn't do much about it. So, and he became quite more centrist than anyone was expecting, and that was why a lot of people were super, super, super disappointed, and that's how we got Trump in 2016, partially. And also, everyone hated Hillary, so I did not hate her, but nobody should have put their fingers on the scale in that primary, because if everybody wanted Bernie, then that is what they should have let happen.
Yep.
Whatever. It is now
People didn't want it.
2025.
Yeah.
It is now.
Clearly.
I mean, if the people wanted Bernie,
Yeah.
obviously the establishment didn't, but
Yeah.
and that's why they put their finger on the scale. Honestly, I still contend. I don't remember if I've said this here or where I said it, but if Joe Biden had run in 2016, he would have won. Pretty sure. And you know what? He wanted to run, and everybody was like, "No, it's Hillary's turn. You can't run. Pretend that you have a family emergency and go away."
Mhm.
So anyway, the only reason I say that over Bernie is because, like, I don't know that everyone in the public wanted Bernie, because it was like Trump is extreme and he's extreme kind of thing.
And the thing is that people think Bernie is so extreme, and then like I don't know, like I've seen so many videos of like him going to real like Trump town and talking to people, and then being like,
Well, because they're both popular. They both talk with a populist point of view. But yeah, no, I'm not even saying that he like is. It's just like he presents, or the media paints
the
him
media
as
presents
such.
him. He's been
And
for
yeah,
the laborer his
yeah,
whole career.
yeah, and yeah, and I think that I mean, these are just my thoughts.
No, all we can do
But
is
what I wanted to say about the and the you have to win elections
oh,
in
okay,
order
come
to,
back.
yeah, we have to win elections in order to work our things that we believe in into being legal or whatever.
Well, also talking about Bernie, and when I read your Substack article, I think I texted you about this, that it made me think of like we can't just rely on these like Republican light
Yeah,
people. Like we need new people, and we need to be those people. Like I said,
yeah,
that call to action, like start paying attention. And
Mhm.
like both of us have been like, you're like when the kids are a little older, and I'm like when my business is stable, I'm
Yeah.
planning to run for something. But like
Mhm.
so I
Run
watched
for
this
something.net.
lovely video of Bernie going to West Virginia and like talking in like a heavily Trump town, and he did like some town halls or whatever.
Yeah.
A young like a maybe 20 something kid asks him a question like something about like what do we do about the Democrats who aren't doing like what we asked them to do kind of thing, like still taking money from like big donors rather than doing what's best for the people who voted for them. And like he's like, what are we gonna do about that? Who's gonna fix that? And Bernie goes, "What's your name?" And the guy's like Max or whatever. And he's like, "Max, you are. You're gonna do something about it."
Yeah. I
It's like,
know.
yeah,
That's
that's what we have to do.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to say, yes, back to the big tent. We need to win elections and get votes if we want to secure these rights and economic policies and etc.
Mm-hmm.
And that means we need to get more people out to vote, and it means we need to have messaging that inspires them to vote or spread more education about civic engagement,
Yeah.
whatever combines to get more votes. But I think it was interesting that you brought up the labor movement because FDR was president
Mm-hmm.
when that law was enacted. And I learned about this recently through Substack articles written through Sharon McMahon's publication called The Preamble. There was this woman, Frances Perkins, who was like instrumental in drafting
Yeah.
the Fair Labor Standards.
Mm-hmm.
And my point is in saying that is we can have these big, some would say pie in the sky desires, and maybe whoever is elected next, God willing it be a Democrat, it could be Gavin Newsom, which I think a lot of people will be really disappointed about. But say it is, I don't want that. I still think we haven't met the next president yet, personally. And say it is him. It's like, don't just give up, make him do stuff. Like
Yeah.
Frances
He's
Perkins
more
made,
movable. Yeah.
yeah, made FDR pass
Mm-hmm.
this law, or Congress, but like she had his ear.
Yeah.
She was very influential, and she is one person
Mm-hmm.
who coordinated a bunch of people to get this to happen. And we
Yeah.
have her to thank for our 40-hour work weeks and 5-day work weeks and all that, and not 7-day work weeks and 20-hour day.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, so my point with all that is we just have to work together. And I'm not saying work with crazy, racist, terrible people. I'm just saying work with other reasonable people
I mean, look at all the
who want
people.
what you want.
Look at all the people who like very misguidedly voted for Trump because they wanted things to be more affordable. You
Yeah,
have that
that
in
was,
common with them.
I
Like
mean,
we
it's
all want
like,
things to be more affordable,
yeah, we all want that. But,
and like they were willing to overlook things that we weren't willing to overlook. But
yep, but yeah.
let's
So,
convince them that somebody more progressive is going to make eggs prices come down. You know.
exactly. Well, we will wrap this up. But before we do, I do just want to hint, because this is like, I think, a whole other episode exploring social media algorithms and
Yeah.
internet culture, the radicalization through internet culture with like the groypers and like the
Yeah, that's
whoever,
something I
whatever.
don't know about the Groypers.
It is a wild west out there that I am only beginning to uncover. But I do just as a reminder, or if it's not a reminder, as an introductory lesson. I've been working in social media for 10 years, and this wasn't how it used to be. This wasn't how it started. I mean, all these websites were started as like a way to connect over the internet.
Yeah,
Facebook was started as a way to connect college friends with each other. It was like
and rate the
specifically
hottest.
for college students. You had to have a school email to have a Facebook account back in the day. Like everything was supposed to be about like democratizing, like publishing and advertising and everything. And of course, once the ad monetization, it complicates things. And then the algorithms,
The money.
yeah, were learned that content that gets the most engagement tends to be content that provokes
It's short.
anger.
Yeah.
And then the algorithms like evolve to like always push anger, which is
Hmm.
how we got to this it helped us get to this place of polarization. And it also helped it, like, Trump taps into anger so easily because he's like an aggrieved person who loves grievance. And that's why he kind of like took Twitter by storm. They say Obama was the Facebook president because when Obama was president, Facebook was the top site, and he was great because he spoke so eloquently and his like content was shared. And this was before the hatred started blossoming everywhere.
I'm worried that.
And then Trump was the Twitter president, and Twitter was really where this like angry algorithm took off. And then I don't know, there's really no like Instagram president or anything, but it's all just become a blob, like we
Yeah, I
talked
think
about
that would be a
before.
great episode.
Yeah. What?
I think that would be a great episode.
Yo, yes, definitely. I just want to say, like, when you go on social media and if something makes your like blood boil and your heart race, like, don't share it. Turn it off. Go outside.
All those rage bait like recipes and crap, like.
Yeah, that's intentional. And you know what happened?
Let yourself
Yeah.
calm down.
Yeah. Do you know who benefits from the United States tearing itself apart on social media?
I can
China
guess.
and Russia. And you know who's helping flood the zone with stupid, weird memes that make you angry? China and Russian meme farms. So I'm not kidding. You can Google it. It's real. So I just want you to remember that. And on that note,
also, just really quickly before we end, another preview for a future episode. Speaking of like China and Russia and people getting fired for their response to Charlie Kirk's death, another upcoming episode we're going to do is on censorship.
yes. And don't worry, we still try to have fun sometimes, and we're going to be talking about Halloween stuff.
Yes.
In the future. So that's on the horizon.
Yeah. I feel like today wasn't as fun because it's late night on Friday night and we just worked all day and now we're here and
But if you also needed to process Charlie Kirk death with your girlfriends, we hope that it helped. Are you making time for anything this weekend, Katie?
Well, actually, yeah. I was about to be like, no, this week has been really bad because we've had a death in the family. It's been rough. But I am going to see a concert tomorrow. I'm going to see Marina
Nice.
with my old roommate slash one of my BFFs, John.
Yay! Oh, I love that. We are going to the Guilford Fair tomorrow, which will be fun, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it'll be fun. I just haven't been to a fair in a long time. Yeah.
Very nice. Ugh. Okay, we're gonna do some fun things.
Yes. All right. On that note, yeah. Everyone's tired, and you know what? If you need to rest, do it because rest helps you prepare.
Yeah.
For the road ahead.
That's the thing that's important to make time for is rest. All right.
All right.
Mwah. Goodbye, people.
Goodbye.